thing is, I could not freaking believe that I conned Mark Victor into running for U.S. Senate. Okay? So, let me tell you how this came about. It was essential.
Wait a minute. How it came about is you said you were going to help, I remember.
Liar. I did. You're on the ballot. There. Done. Okay? Don't even start with me. Okay? This is what happened. There was a big press for Libertarian to have somebody at the top of the ticket under Gary Johnson. You know, we had U.S. Senate races going. There were a lot of people that kind of, if nobody else would have done it, I might have felt compelled, maybe. But so I worked hard to try and find, so there were several people that we had in line that for whatever reason, they threatened their job. If you do this, don't count on the state contract or whatever. If you do this, it kind of really, a lot of pressure. But what happened was, I knew that Jeff Flake was going to try and embrace this libertarian label that he keeps trying to wield like a sword. And the reason in 2004 that I ran against John McCain was because John McCain said he was libertarian in a Chicago Tribune interview. And I go, are you freaking kidding me? Oh, hell no. Okay? So I knew how important it was, especially with somebody like Flake, that I've known since '93. I can tell you all kinds of Flake stories. But the point is that he was going to try and, well, you libertarians, if you're voting, for a home team here. We find out that he's running against the Democrat. Now, Flake did win, right? The primary?
Yeah.
I assume. Because I don't care. The Democrat is a guy that was the U.S. Surgeon General in 2002 or something like that. So he has money. I mean, millions. I mean, this is, this is serious concern, man. The Democrats going, get this what for. The ballot measure that they put on the ballot in the next election, future elections, you take just the top 2 vote getters, regardless of party and so on. It was challenged off the ballot, until after Mark gets on the ballot. He said, you know what? We changed our mind. We just ruled, it just came out last night or something that it's back on the ballot. Okay? So all that back and forth, and I know Mark's campaigning, see, those damn libertarians, we better get this thing, find us a judge. Yes, boss, we're going to put it back on the ballot. Just happened. These campaigns have an effect. And what's happened is I'm going, look, if there's not a libertarian standard, voice, something there, and I'm not a big, Gary Johnson's a nice guy and great and wonderful and everything, but I'm not big, exactly. I'm not a big fan of this fair tax thing, okay? He's out there advocating for a new tax. It's going to be hard to sit there and say, libertarian with this tax. It's difficult, if not impossible. So what we're going to do is we have to have maintain a libertarian definition in Arizona. I called Mike first. I know he'd be the guy to call. And it was right after Mark had just got a not guilty verdict on 83 pounds of marijuana.
Yeah!
In the air. Okay? Did you or did you not pull 83 pounds of marijuana out of that bag? Well, yes, we did. Who was driving it? Her. Not guilty. How'd that happen? Mark Victor, that's how that happened. Okay? So he has a bunch of video. He has a bunch of cases. He has a bunch of articles. He has a bunch of radio interviews. He has people that know how to put web pages together. I'm going, look, you don't have to do anything. Fill out, for a federal race, he tried to do the state before, but it's a packet like this, a financial disclosure. You ought to know where all your money is, okay? For a federal race, running for U.S. Congress or U.S. Senate, there is no paperwork other than I'm running one page. Okay, he had to fill out the voter registration thing because he doesn't do that either. But anyway, so he does voter registration. He does the one page. All he's got to do is get 100 and whatever write-in signatures. He's on the ballot in the general election. You do that, take all the other stuff, put it up, let the people, whatever, love evolutionary, will make a big woohoo and have some fun, whatever. Then he starts getting interviews. People want to talk to him. He's like, oh yeah, baby, we're going to do a campaign. Ernie's over here, man. You're going to do that campaign thing. We'll go ahead and have some fun. I did my part, okay? But the point is that there is really an opportunity here for a lot of entertainment and fun and getting some stuff done. because now it's going to be probably by the end of this next week. I was thinking September 10th was the day that it begins, okay? And the reason is because that's the Monday after next weekend when all the challenges, everything's done. This is the ballot. These are the people that are going to be on the ballot. Pal Gamble is running for Congress that way too. So what we did is we created a thing called the L Factor, the lfactor.org. Tell you the story real quick, and then Mark, and we'll go until he has to leave. He's got another speaking engagement.
Do we do batteries today?
What?
Batteries today?
Batteries.
Internet.
Yeah, after he leaves, then I'll do my, thing. So what happens is we have the L Factor is liberty, the determining factor, but it came about this way. Years ago, when the 90s, when I was county chair, they'd always blame the Libertarians for whenever a Democrat won anything, okay? It was Libertarians that did it. All those dope smokers pulled a bunch of Republican votes or something. I don't know how that happened. So that was there because they're really worried about the debt, because they know they're just as liberal standing as everybody else, so they got a guilty conscience. What happened is there was a story about an astronaut. He's out, exploring space. He gets captured by some aliens. They go, "This is great for our little menagerie zoo. We put him in here. Look at the human." Okay? The entire planet he can't get away. He can't escape. He's in this menagerie because you know what? He starts worshiping a paperclip or something. Okay? And they go, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm sorry, man. Our species, we can't be contained. So anybody that captures us like this, bad juju on you, man. You're jinxed. You're bad luck. Or whatever happens, all bad things are going to happen to you. And sorry, it's just the way you are." All of a sudden, anything that happened bad, the entire planet, "Get him out of here! Let him go! Get him his damn ship and get him out of here. My mother-in-law caught me, whatever." Okay? So it was the X factor. It was in their own head. They created this thing in their own head. So we go, we'll do that. We'll call it the L factor. We don't just get inside their head and go, "Yeah, you're going to lose because." So we created this site and we put all the candidates on it. And it still has the old one reconstituted and just switched it over to yesterday. So Kilsky finally flipped the switch after, whatever. So what happened is you put all the candidates there, no endorsement, no nothing, other than that, they're libertarian. And we put them up on there so the press has a place to go. Because they always complain, "Well, we couldn't find a count. We didn't know where they're, wine and crap." Oh, here it is. We put them on business cards, flyers promoting the L Factor. This way, I get to do whatever signs and stuff I want, like 4x8 signs everywhere that says, "Shut up, government. I saw what you did." Well, what'd they do? What'd you see them do? I don't know what you see them do. Because everybody saw them do something. Okay? "Shut up. I saw what you did." So that might be one. There might be other stuff. Now the campaign needs money for them to do the actual campaign signs. Got Astrid Campos, Andre and Astrid. They were regional guys for Ron Paul and so on. Astrid, they got experience on keeping him out of jail and fill out the right paperwork. Okay, so she's running the campaign, but they got to have money for a campaign manager to get signs. So it's not a lot, but you need at least $20,000 to $40,000. Okay, so we're going to do a party 2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah, about 2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks from now, the 18th, I think it is, a Saturday. Yeah, it's going to be Randy Paulson's in Fountain Hills, right? The 14th. Okay, the 14th. Now this is what we're going to do is do that. The whole thing there is to raise money for this campaign. Now other people are running, Michael's running for stuff, we got Pal doing everything, but this is the one thing that's going to be the launch or everything. Why? Because the definition of libertarianism has to be defended by somebody running as a freaking libertarian. Most libertarian I got is Ron Paul, and the party dissed him. We'll talk about that later too. But I want to get on this battery thing because I promised that.
Hey, don't we still have Rand? Just kidding, Ernie, just kidding.
So already it hasn't really started yet. They're just getting all the web pages done, everything's set up. You want to see a bunch of Mark signs, that's it. You just want to drive to his site so that you can see the videos. Him arguing before a judge on video of why putting this guy in jail with mandatory sentencing, daylight, babysitting my kids. More than I would have you, Judge, babysitting my kids. So This is the kind of campaign that they want to avoid at all costs. They did not see this coming. But it's here. Mark Victor.
How do I set this up for a short guy?
Undo the.
Oh, bottom.
It'll work. There you go.
All right, perfect. Everybody hear me okay?
No. Not working.
Come on, Ernie.
You loosen it and then tighten it.
That thing didn't work last week at all.
Nice
Go to the
try.
gym or something.
I mean, last month.
Everybody hear me okay?
Now it's on.
It's not on?
It's on, there you go.
Oh, that's better. Well, first off, thanks for having me come speak here. It's always a pleasure to come speak before this group, long-standing group. I've spoken before this group many, many times. How many people have never heard me speak before? Show of hands. All right, well, there's a few out there, so I guess I'll introduce myself. My name's Marc Victor. I'm originally from the Boston area. Moved out here in 1989, and other than law school, I've been living here ever since. Joined the Marine Corps back in, actually I joined in 85, went to boot camp in 86. That's where I went to Parris Island there. Joined when I was 17 and 2 weeks old. I was honorably discharged from the Marine Corps as a sergeant, served in Operations Desert Storm and Desert Shield, lived in the front by the minefields in a hole, eating MREs for months without a shower. Graduated ASU in 92. I majored in Justice Studies, where I graduated summa cum laude from there. I was always interested in the criminal justice system, always wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer as long as I can remember. And I have owned and operated my own law firm since 1997, and I'm actually really proud to say that I've created lots of jobs. Over the years, I've employed many people full-time. Currently, I employ 9 people at my firm full-time in lots and lots of part-time jobs as well, and I'm actually very proud of that. So I've been a criminal defense lawyer since '94. I've represented thousands of people, probably several thousands of people in major felony cases, everything from first-degree murder with the death penalty alleged to trial on several occasions, all the way down to the smallest little crazy misdemeanor ordinances, which we constantly get. I've done state, federal cases. I also represent people out of state. I picked up a case last week in Nebraska. And I've also done lots of appellate cases. Like Ernie, I've argued before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco, and I've won there. And I've been a state bar certified specialist in criminal law for the past 12 years. But I think more importantly than that, I've been a freedom activist most of my life. As proof of that, if you looked at my high school yearbook and you looked where it said, "What's your life's ambition?" mine says to be a United States Senator. Absolute truth. In fact, when I was 15 years old, cooking at the International House of Pancakes, I used to give speeches to people about how I was going to change the world by running for office and trying to be the President of the United States. And Mike Wasden here, who listened to many of those speeches back when I was 15, was going to be my campaign manager. I also started this thing with some guy named Ernie Hancock called the Freedom Summit, which I'm very proud of. We brought lots of speakers to town, freedom inclined, hardcore, real freedom inclined, libertarian type people who understand the nature of freedom. We did that for many years. I've been on TV a lot, been on the radio a lot, quoted in the newspaper many times. Used to do a show with a great man named Lambert. I don't know, anybody here remember Lambert? Probably not. I know Ernie does. We did a show called Discover Freedom on KFNX. It was run for a while, and it was what I would term a pretty hardcore pro-freedom type of a show. I've given lots and lots of speeches. I speak to Marines, people getting ready to join the Marine Corps, veterans, prosecutors, police officers. I'm happy to speak to the other side. Gun guys, speak to lots of gun groups, students. My firm, my law firm, I make it no secret that I use my firm to promote freedom and to be an activist. I've hosted fundraisers through my law firm for Ron Paul, for Barry Hess. We probably did something for Kielski. If not, I'm sure we will and should. I've organized and attended lots of freedom-related discussion groups. I've supported financially other pro-freedom organizations. I've got lots and lots of articles that deal with freedom issues. My positions are pretty clear. I'm the only lawyer who speaks at the Crossroads Gun Show, not because I'm the only lawyer who wants to, I'm the only lawyer who's allowed to. I give a speech at almost every Crossroads Gun Show about the rights of firearm owners to pull out their firearm. And now I'm running for the United States Senate for the first time in my life ever for any political office. But I think I can say with absolute certainty that I am unambiguously and uncompromisingly for freedom in all areas. There's no mystery about my politics. Nobody has to wonder about where I stand or what I'm about. It's pretty easy to find out how Mark Victor stands on the issues. I always come down on the side of freedom, and I've been on that side for decades now. I haven't changed any of my positions. I think that free people are in charge of themselves. That's the essence of what I believe. I think individuals ought to run their own lives. It's not really that complex. I think that the government has one function, and it ought to be strictly limited to that function, which is to just simply protect those rights. To protect the rights of the individual to run his or her own life. And I say this with a lot of pride, by the way, and I don't take this lightly. I'm an American. In a sense, that's true just because I was born here. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something much bigger than that. I think there is something special, or at least there used to be something special about being an American. I think when somebody stood up and said, I'm an American, that meant something. It was a big deal. And it's not just a description of where I live. Right? Big deal. Real Americans have an attitude about being an American. There's a certain attitude, in my estimation, about what it means to be an American. And I couldn't explain this to you any better than someone who I think I would be good friends with if he was here today. The third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, an American. Let me tell you what he had to say. He's brought a few quotes, because I couldn't hope to say it as well as Thomas Jefferson said it. Here's what he says. The two enemies of the people are criminals and government. So let us tie the second down with the chains of the Constitution, so the second will not become the legalized version of the first. Government big enough to supply everything you need is big enough to take everything you have. The course of history shows that as a government grows, liberty decreases. This might be my favorite one. No man has a natural right to commit aggression on the equal rights of another, and this is all from which the laws ought to restrain him. Doesn't that sum it up? When the people fear their government, there's tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. And finally, the one that I try to run my life by, in matters of style, swim with the current. Or just to update it, in matters of style, do whatever your wife says. But in matters of principle, stand like a rock. And that's what I intend to do. Stand like a rock for freedom. I'm not running for office to water down my positions. I'm not going to change my views on anything. I'm not going to change my views. I'm not going to water them now. I'm not going to shade them. I'm not going to be quiet about them for the purpose of getting one more vote. It's not me. I am what I am. I am what I've been for the past several decades, and I refuse to change. This American attitude I spoke about, that Thomas Jefferson spoke about, It's about the government being our agent. They work for us. We don't work for them. Their job's to protect our rights, and that's it. Americans are distrustful of government. They're skeptical of government. They don't love the government. Did you get that in the quotes from Thomas Jefferson? No. They're skeptical. They referred to government as an evil. Americans think they're in charge of themselves. Do whatever you want, as long as you don't interfere with anybody. That's an American attitude. Run your own life. Guns? We don't beg the government for guns. We don't try to justify to the government our need to have a gun because we want to go hunting or because we're a collector. No, that's not why the Second Amendment was there. Guns are there because we have a right to protect ourselves from everyone and everything, including the government, when it commits aggression. And sometimes they do. That's why we have a Second Amendment to keep and bear arms. People ask me sometimes, Mark, what kind of message is this going to send to the children if the government stops doing this or allows it? Do we really care about... It's hard for me to think of something more disgusting than Americans concerned about messages from government to children. Really? Are we really worried about what message the government's going to send to our children? That is not the job of government. And shame on parents who worry about what message the government sends to their children. That's the job of the parent. My kids are very clear about messages. They get them from me and my wife. I don't care what the government says. I don't want the government's messages. I don't need the government's messages. Americans don't look to the government for guidance on how to run their lives. Americans don't need the government to arrange everything for them, from cradle to grave. To me, that's un-American. That's just not American. You want to be French or European or something, maybe that's one of their concepts, one of their principles. But that's not an American concept. We're capitalists. We're capitalists. We like the free market. We like the notion of people trading freely without interference from the government. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with making money. That's an American concept. And Americans, we like to disagree. Shame on those people who say, and I hate it, they always get off to a bad start with me when they say, hey Mark, I'm so sorry, but I disagree with you about this. Don't be sorry. We're Americans. When did we become such wimps? How did we become such wimps? Americans can disagree, right? Are we big enough to handle that? Can we be politically incorrect? Is it okay? I think it's just fine to be politically incorrect. Speak your mind. You're an American. Shame on you if you're worried about what's politically incorrect. Then there's the Americans without the American attitude. They outnumber us. I hate to say it, right? I'm not going to be politically correct. They outnumber us. People who live here, they call themselves Americans, right? Because they live here, but they don't have any idea about an American attitude. They live in the United States, but they like and they trust the government. Even big government. Just fine with them. What would Thomas Jefferson think of that? They believe that the government knows what's best for you and your body and your money and your property and your time. They think that your rights come from the government. You go to the government, you fill out an application, you say, please, someone in the government, could you bestow this right upon me? I'd like to have a gun, I'd like to drive a car, could I have a dog? Can I have a doggy license? How much water can I have in my toilet? These are things that the government tells you. All money is controlled by the government. They think it's their money, right? Yes. They might let you have some, and the Republicans and the Democrats are arguing about how much should you get to keep. And after all, in a sense, they're right, because the government prints it all up as recklessly as they choose, unconnected to anything of value, right? We've all seen on TV those printing presses loading out sheets of hundreds like there's no tomorrow. Just whatever the cost of the paper is to run the printing press. Government can regulate or outlaw anything. Anything. They think that's okay. They think disagreement's bad. They say things like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you." They don't like competition. They love socialist concepts. They're into political correctness. Why on earth do they celebrate the 4th of July? The 4th of July is not a happy time for me. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Declaration of Independence. It's one of the most boldest, courageous, unbelievable things that any group of humans have ever done since there have been humans. Really? Did they really get together and sign this Declaration of Independence and send it to King George III and tell him to go shove it where the sun does not shine? Did they do that to the king? To the strongest military army on the planet at the time? Wow. They put their name in writing on paper. John Hancock, a guy as short as me, from Boston, a smuggler, signed it extra big. Extra big. I want to make sure King George III sees that my name is on this thing. We are having a revolution, right? We're going to overthrow our own government. That's what the Declaration of Independence was about. It was a treasonous overthrow of the government. They did that. Those were Americans. But today, we shoot off 4th of July fireworks, right? The socialists who have no concept of what America's about. If you get your permit, and it's a right, you can have the sparkler, right? You get a sparkler, you can, happy 4th of July, everybody. It's annoying to me. It's not right. I think if the founders were here, if John Hancock was here, and he saw the people celebrating that event, who support these types of things, these types of un-American things today, he'd be disgusted. I'm running because I want to do everything that I can to try to revive that American attitude. I want to persuade people any way I can to value and protect freedom, to even understand freedom. It's not just a word, right? Remember when George Bush used to throw freedom and democracy, democracy and freedom, like they're the same things. They're not the same things. They're different things. Freedom's a big deal. That's been one of my main goals as a lawyer. Everybody who's come to work for my law firm gets the same speech. Money? We want to make money. It's not the most important thing at my firm. I'm an activist first. My firm's a pro-freedom firm. That woman who I got off with the 83 pounds of marijuana, she couldn't afford my fee. She couldn't afford my fee. She came with a public defender. She had been found indigent. But she came to my firm because she didn't want to accept the 4-year prison deal. And she didn't even speak English. She had no way to hire me. She wasn't even a citizen. She was here legally. Not that I care. But she was here legally. But she needed help, and I couldn't turn her away. I had the discretion to accept that case for what some might call peanuts. She did pay to the best of her ability. We accepted that case. I could do that because I own my own law firm. I can defend guys like Shelton when they do stuff they need to be defended on. I can do that because I'm an activist first. We need to take our country back. When I say we, I'm talking about you. You're on the train. Shame on you if you disgrace Thomas Jefferson and John Hancock. If they were here, what would they say? What would they say if you're sitting around doing nothing and then you know? It's one thing if you don't know, right? You think freedom? Mike and I got into an argument with one guy at the gym sometime, and he said, well, I disagree with you guys, but I support true freedom. We said, what's true freedom? The right to do whatever it is you're supposed to do. Whatever it is the government says you can do. That's freedom. Look, if you're that guy, you don't even understand what freedom's about. I don't really hold it against him because he doesn't understand. But you understand. When I grew up, it was about Reagan and Gorbachev. Remember that in the 80s? We were all freaked out about the Soviet Union. We were watching and worrying about the nuclear standoff with them, right? Mutually assured destruction. It was a big deal. We were so worried about the Soviets taking over things with their socialist concepts. We watched them so intently that nobody was watching our back when our government snuck right up and ran right over our lines and took over our country. We were overrun by our own government. We need to put our government back in a cage, a strong cage, with lots of locks. We need to understand and promote freedom again. Ronald Reagan said a couple things that I thought were noteworthy. He said, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. He also said this. Republican Ronald Reagan said this, I believe the very heart and soul of conservatism is, who knows?
Libertarianism.
Libertarianism. That's the heart and soul of conservatism. Do you think Ronald Reagan has anything in common with the Republicans of today? What about if you rewind it a little more and you look at Barry Goldwater? Would they even recognize the Republican Party of today? No. But I'm here to tell you something, because freedom isn't easy. I can promise you this. I don't know how many speeches I've given in the last 19 years or so to how many different groups. I'll speak to anybody. You're the socialist supporters of America. You want me to speak? I'm there. I'll come and speak to your group. But I can promise you this. I always can ask the same question and get the same response. In any group, raise your hand if you're for freedom. Everybody raises their hand, right? Everybody raises their hand. In every group, every time. Everybody says they're for freedom because there's nothing hard in raising your hand. That's easy. If you think freedom is easy, you don't understand what freedom's about. It's not easy. There's what I call the dark side of freedom, the hard part of freedom. Guess what? Not everybody's going to choose to use their freedoms the same way you choose to use your freedoms. Are you big enough? Are you man enough or woman enough? But let me say it like this. Are you American enough? Are you American enough to tolerate and accept the notion that other people may choose to use their freedoms in ways not only that you don't, but in ways that disgust you, in ways you disagree with, things you might find morally reprehensible, unwarranted, unhealthy, flat out wrong, but don't interfere with anybody else. That's the question about freedom that needs to be answered in your own head before you raise your hand in response to my question about if you're for freedom. I wrote an article about this. It's a short article. It's an easy read. It's back there on one of those tables. And it's entitled, Are You Really for Freedom? I think it's a 2-pager. Are you really for freedom? Because I want to know. It's one of the things my campaign is about. I want to know. Are you really for freedom? This is part of being an American to me. People might ask me any variety of, hey Mark, what's your personal preference about this or that? I find that to be kind of a dumb question asked to me. You know why? It doesn't matter what my personal preference is. I'm for freedom. What relevance is it to you Unless you're one of my friends and you want to hang out with me on the weekend, then it matters. Because I'm going to do things that I like to do. But if you're asking me in a political context what my personal preference is, you already are telling me you don't understand my position. We all have preferences. What those preferences are is completely irrelevant to a discussion about freedom. Freedom is about tolerating, respecting the rights of other people to feel and act differently, so long as it doesn't interfere with anyone else. I'll give you some examples of this. I have a Harley Davidson. One of these days I'm going to get it back from the custom paint shop. Hopefully soon. Still not back. No. In Arizona, I got a choice, right? I could wear my helmet, or I could go without a helmet. That's a freedom issue, right?
Absolutely.
What do I personally do? Does that matter? Does that matter to my position on the freedom of other people to control their heads as they're rolling down the road on their Harleys? No. Doesn't matter. Who cares what Mark Victor does? It doesn't matter. Whether I wear my helmet because I think you're a complete moron if you don't, or whether I don't wear my helmet because I'm happy to be a complete moron as I'm riding down the road, taking the risk of injuring my head, makes no difference to the question of whether or not you get to control your own head as you're driving down the road on your Harley in the wind. Or maybe you ride a Honda. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter what my personal preference is. Same with alcohol. Same with cigarettes, right? Doesn't matter. I hardly ever use alcohol. I never smoke a cigarette. Doesn't happen. Does that affect anything about my position on whether or not you get to use alcohol? Whether you get to smoke cigarettes? As long as you don't bother another person, it's not relevant. You know, you would think everybody here probably knows my position on the drug war. It's the same position that any real American would have. Right? If you're not for the drug war, please don't raise your hand when I ask you if you're for freedom. If you're not against the drug war, I mean, I'm sorry. If you're for the drug war, you're just not for freedom. I'm sorry. It's just that simple to me.
You mean marijuana drug war or drug war or all the other stuff?
All of it.
All of it?
All of
Look,
What's the title of your article?
I have an article back here. It's entitled Legalize Methamphetamine. I urge you to read it. And don't be afraid of the title, right? Because if I think you get to control your body, I get to decide what you put in your body. I say, well, you know, marijuana, I think that's okay for you. Meth, no, I don't think that's okay for you. By the way, maybe Mayor Bloomberg in New York, he thinks sugary drinks are really bad for you. There's legitimate argument on that, right? In fact, I agree with him on that point. Big, sugary, buckety kind of drinks, those are bad for you. So why don't me and Mayor Bloomberg agree on this point? Easy to explain, right? Because I'm for freedom and he's not. It's that simple. I always get aggravated when I talk to the pot smokers. Why do I get aggravated when I talk to the pot smokers? Mike will tell you, it's always one of my most hostile speeches. I get in front of the normal group, and I usually start with, oh, let me guess, you smoke marijuana, so you're for the rights of other people to smoke marijuana. How enlightened of you. Oh, wow, you're really a big freedom crowd. You get it, right? Oh, you like marijuana? Me think okay for her to smoke marijuana. Boy, that's a higher thought process.
Exactly.
Then I ask them about meth. They say, oh my God. Some of them would react like that if I ask about alcohol, right? And if I'm talking to the Alcohol Drinkers Association of America, if there is such a thing, and they don't smoke marijuana, and I ask them about making alcohol illegal, they'll have a heart attack. Marijuana, no problem, because I don't like marijuana. I mean, does this strike you as a freedom position? It doesn't strike me as a freedom position at all. Can we say the same thing about guns? Can we say the same thing about gays? Right? I'm very not gay. If you ask me, I'll tell you, I have the most beautiful woman in the world as my wife.
He thinks you do protest too much.
Okay. I'm very not gay. But you know what? I'm the biggest supporter of do whatever the heck you want to do in your bed with whatever the heck consenting adult or adults you want to do in your bed. It is none of my business. It is none of my business. You want to do something with a prostitute? Are you consenting adults? Is it my business? Aren't these easy issues? What about religion? Oh my God, is Mark going to go there? Yeah, I am. Oh, everybody's a big supporter of people who are the same religion as theirs, right? Let's plow it into the government. Why not? It's the one true religion. But are you big enough to tolerate people who have other religious views? Or religious fanatics? Can we be big enough to say people who eat and sleep and drink their religion, whatever their religion might be? So I'm standing here in a nation where the majority of people are Christians. Okay, can you tolerate Muslims? Can you tolerate Hindus? Can you tolerate Buddhists? Can you tolerate atheists? Who cares what people believe, as long as they don't affect anybody else? What's wrong with that? That's an American position. Real Americans can deal with this. I always look at it as a test, right? I love it as a test. Mark Victor, raised a Jew. Can you represent the Nazi supporter? Yeah, I can, and I have. Does he have every right to state his views? Yeah, he does. Will I be the first person to fight for his right to stand up and say, I hate short Jewish lawyers from Boston who are Patriots fans? I will stand by his side. Probably won't give him a discount on what he but I will stand by his side and defend to the death his right to say it, so long as he's peaceful. The second he steps out of line, the second he interferes with another person's right to define and pursue their own happiness, now we got an issue. That's what the government's for. That's what jails and prisons and criminal defense lawyers and prosecutors and judges are for. Little side note. You want to ride your motorcycle down the road without a helmet? Have fun. You fall down, go boom, hurt your head. You ain't got no right to force your neighbor to pay your medical bills.
But it doesn't work that way, Mark.
Why is that so? Of course it doesn't work. None of this stuff works this way. And the reason it doesn't is for one thing. They outnumber us. We haven't made the case for freedom. We haven't. We've been asleep at the switch. We need to make the case for freedom. We need to get out into the margins. We need to say, see this offensive person? Disagree with everything he says. Defend his right to say it. Disagree with how this person lives? Defend their right to live that way so long as they're peaceful. I'm not suggesting, by the way, that you should associate with people who do things you disagree with. I'm not suggesting you got to be friends with everybody. I'm probably not going to be friends with the white Nazi supremacist who hates the short lawyer Jewish guy from Boston who's a Patriots fan. We don't need to be friends. Associate with people who make you happy. These are the big leagues of freedom. These are the big boys and girls of freedom I'm talking to. I hope. So there, I've said it. Freedom isn't easy. Think about it the next time you raise your hand when I ask you the question, or when someone else who understands freedom asks you the question, like Ernie, or Mike, or Tracy, or Donna. They understand these issues. How do I know? Because I've been talking to them about it for almost 25, 30 years. Some of you get this. Nobody's got a right to trespass on anybody else, right? Why is this so hard? I don't want to fund anybody else's activities. I don't want to be responsible if they injure themselves. But they get to control their property just like I do. I don't understand why this is so difficult for people to understand. I talk to the Tea Party groups all the time. Some of the people here were at some of my Tea Party groups. And they say, first of all, you want to associate with the Boston Tea Party? The Sons of Liberty? The people, the real Americans who threw that tea overboard because they wouldn't accept the 2% tax? That's okay. That's a big statement. You want to associate with that crowd? You better be for freedom or you're a fraud. Not all those people at those Tea Party meetings have any understanding of freedom. They sit there and say, I'm absolutely for freedom. As long as they do the same things I do. They got every right to do whatever they want. As long as it's the same stuff I do. That's not for freedom. Why is America a superpower? Did you ever wonder about this? Did we just wake up in the morning and get to be a superpower? I started thinking about this one time. Why isn't England the superpower? Why isn't France the superpower? For that matter, why isn't Egypt the superpower? I've been to Egypt. I've been to Cairo. They're really, really, really far from a superpower. They got people in Cairo still hanging their laundry out the window. Almost all the people. Cairo makes Rocky Point look like Scottsdale. They've been at it a long time. Much longer than the United States. Why are we the superpower? Did this ever occur to you? Is it because we're just blessed and we're wonderful and we love our children more than everybody else? No, it's not. You can believe that if you want. But the real reason that we're a superpower is simple. We've had more freedom than them for a longer period of time. We've had more of a free market. We've allowed our people to venture capital and to start businesses and take risks and go out of business if they can't make it and make lots of money if they can. We've had more freedom relative to them. Our people are free to think and write and speak more relative to them. Freedom has served us really well. Why do we have, hopefully we still do, the best medical care in the world, which I'm sure we won't much longer. But why have we had that in the past? It's for these reasons. Freedom serves everybody well. If you could keep it. If you could keep it. But the only way you get to keep it is if people who understand freedom stand up to define and support and put the hard things out there. Go to the unpopular groups and say, do you support the rights of gay people to be gay? Do you support the rights of atheists to be atheists? Do you support the rights of meth users and crack users and cocaine users to peacefully use their drug? Now don't get confused, right? If you want to use meth or crack or marijuana or Starbucks coffee or anything and it affects your ability to operate your vehicle safely down the road and now you become a threat, a risk to another person, now we got an issue. I acknowledge sometimes meth creates those kinds of issues. But until it does, they got every right to destroy their own bodies. Why? Because they own their own bodies. And I respect the rights of other human beings to control their own bodies, to own them, even to abuse them or destroy them. So, are we the land of the free anymore? I mean, really? We could sing songs about it. We could talk about it. We could tell our kids in 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade that we're the land of the free. And we could pretend. We could keep going down the road where we pretend we're the land of the free, if you like. That's not working out so well for us, by the way. I would say it's more accurate to describe our country as the land of the incarcerated, rather than the land of the free. And this isn't just my opinion based on nothing. These are the facts. We incarcerate more people in our country by far, either by raw numbers or by a percentage of our population than any country on the planet Earth. How can we accept this and still call ourselves the land of the free? We lead the world in incarceration rates. Why? Because we're a police state. I'll say it. We're a police state, right? We have an unbelievable mountain of regulation, law enforcement officers, surveillance, and the government just keeps cranking out more and higher levels of technology ways to keep watching and listening and testing and checking. Anybody go through TSA recently? Try to fly on a plane? I've been through TSA. Well, I go through a lot. It's never pretty. I don't like it because I'm an American. Okay? But we let this happen. And I watch the endless parade of other people who live here who call themselves Americans. Government says walk over here for the radiation bath. Okay. Put your arms up higher. Okay. Put them low. Okay. Take your shoes out. Whatever is said, there's no question. Whatever the government says is what they do. Everyone is in violation of something. Everyone is in violation of something. Close to on a daily basis. I've been doing criminal law for, like I said, almost 19 years, and I still don't know all the crimes. People come in with crimes I've never heard of before. Our government is taxing and spending out of control. We have insurmountable debt, and the future of this country is right now at stake, and if we don't take it back soon, we will never, ever, ever be able to take it back. We will lose it forever. And if you think that the Republicans and the Democrats have the answer, you are mistaken. The Republicans and the Democrats are the ones together, both of them 100% responsible, joint and several liability. They're both 100% responsible for all of these problems. It doesn't matter if the Democrats are in, it doesn't matter if the Republicans are in, it doesn't matter which party controls Congress, it doesn't matter what they say, it does not matter. One thing we know for sure, that the Republicans and or the Democrats will continue to do what they've done, which is continue to increase the size and scope and regulation of this government. They will continue to destroy and erode the rights that you have left. They do not care. Don't be afraid of the L. Don't be afraid of the L. I know if you're an R or D, you're scared of that L. People who are L's must be from different planets, right? No. I got news. Those L's, they might have been R's decades ago, back when Barry Goldwater was an R. But the R's aren't for freedom today. Only the L's are for freedom. Only the L's. It is time for a revolution again. It is time. It's way past time, actually. It's time for an intellectual revolution. That's what the founders of this country thought they were doing. They weren't interested in violence. It came to violence. They didn't want that. If you look at their writings, what they said is the American Revolution was a revolution between the ears. That's what we need. We need to take back our freedoms, and there's no way we can do that unless we get our neighbors to have the same kind of intellectual revolution that occurred during the time of the American Revolution. They gotta understand freedom. That's why, that's the only reason why I'm running for U.S. Senate. The only reason why. I'm doing what I can. If I go to my grave and we still live in a police state, I'll go to my grave at least with the knowledge of saying, I did whatever I could do. I did whatever I could do to win hearts and minds. And if we can do that, I don't know exactly what's going to happen next, but if we can win hearts and minds and get people to understand what freedom is really about, whatever happens next will be good. It will be a positive thing. And if we don't, I fear for this country. Thank you.
Hell no, I'm not going to let him in the debate.
No.
Hell no. Which is what they meant. We've been pretty lucky here in Arizona being real buttheads getting in on a lot of the debates. Now what happens is that when they don't, or if they don't, we're very creative. And I guarantee we get at least half the press. So this is what we're building up to. You can see why, well, then you guys can do this later. Mike, later. The one thing that I want to, Yeah, thanks.
What happened to freedom?
The one thing I want to make sure that you understand is it doesn't matter what the result is of the election vote totals. You know I don't trust them anyway. What happens is how many minds can you expose to this? How many minds can you free? When? At a time that the Republican National Convention took a neon flashing light and said, we're corrupt and proud of it, okay? We don't care about you guys.
That's
We don't
right.
care about the freedom philosophy that he articulated. We don't care. You're free to do what the hell we tell you.
Yeah.
So this is, I can see where this is going. I know you have a lot of questions. Freedom's answer, what's the question? Next. So go to the website, it's Marc, it's Victor for Senate, number 4, right?
It's number 4.
I mean, is it FOR?
I think it's FOR.
FOR.
Victor 4.
Victor for FOR Senate.com. Now, there's some stuff been passed out by Michael. You know, he's passed out, so he's running for county attorney. You have Pal Gamble running for Congress. We got limited time, and I know a lot of people, I promised the main thing was I was going to talk about the battery project and so on, so we'll get to that. Yeah, I know that. Mark has to leave, you know, so what I want you to do is go ahead and go to his website, and, because what will happen? It's videos just like this that's going to be on there. Everybody's going to go to and see this compared to what are they going to say that's going to compare with this. They go, yeah, but flake or tie. That's it. So I can see where this is going. We're going to have some fun with this, and you guys can too. But I'm telling you, I do not see government in general as a solution to anything, but it's an opportunity for us to express ourselves and also for you. No Pat, no questions. He's right there. He's got to leave.
Okay.
Go ahead and take off. You got to go. Now do the battery thing.